Okay, so for tools needed, if you're doing this in a shop, obviously we use air tools. Here's what the torsion bar looks like. It is a dealer-only part, so at this point you can only buy them from dealership. You'll need an air hammer with a pickle attachments, or you can use the handheld ones without air, basically, and a hammer to drive them together or separate them. You have air tools that are air guns with a 21 mil to get the bolts off, an 18 mil for the other bolt, and then a 21 mil wrench to hold it so it doesn't spin, as well as a pry bar to help separate them. So those are the tools needed, and from there we'll get started taking her apart. So right now we're loosening the lower nut that holds it to the steering knuckle, and the torsion bar is the one that runs from the front of the frame down to the lower part of the spindle or steering knuckle. And as you can see, there is the socket, the joint for it. Alright, so we used our air gun with a pickle fork to separate it. You can also use a hammer and a pickle fork, or just a hammer, and you can beat on the steering knuckle right where it connects, right here. You can hit on it right there with a hammer, or you can separate it between here and she'll come apart. Alright, next you gotta take this trim panel off, take the push pins out of there so that you can get inside, and get your 18 mil up in there with a wobble socket. It's like a wobble style, the swivel style, because it is quite tight in there. Then you hold your 21 millimeter wrench on the nut on the other side. And then you slide your bolt out. And then we'll use the pry bar, usually to separate it. So usually we'll take it out of the end of the knuckle first, so it's popped up. So now she's up out of there. Now you can pull it loose from the inside of the frame. And that's what it looks like apart. Now, where these things usually fail, they can fail at the bushing inside here, which will split and crack. And this one, as you can see right there, is still all in one piece, and it's still in one piece there. So the inside of this one is good. Where they go bad, most common, is out here at the joint. And these will be loose inside. If you grab them with your hand, you can usually feel a little bit of play in there, and that's what usually causes the clunk. It can also clunk or rattle at the other end as well, and this one seems to be all here at this end. So now we just reverse procedure and reinstall. Alright, so we got it pretty much set back in place now. She's dropped down in the joint in the knuckle, and then attached here at the frame. So we'll slide our bolt back through that so it's locked in place, and then install the nut. Now we found that when we ordered this tape from dealership, they did not supply new nuts to reinstall it. And that nut is a nylon lock nut. So when you take them off one time, the nylon will be gone. Therefore, there's a good chance that it could come loose down the road if you don't install the new nut. So in the future, I'd recommend ordering the nuts along with the arms, torsion struts, because we were not aware they didn't come with them. They usually do. We're going to Loctite these with some Loctite, some thread sealant, so they don't come loose again. steering gear. Alright, so we're prying it up into position so it lines up with the hull. That way we can slide the bolt through it and lock it back down. If I can find the spot. No. Sometimes these can be quite a challenge to line up. They come out easier than they go back together. That's for sure. We're using a punch to try to center the arm in the hole so that we can line the bolt up. Because you don't want to force the bolt through, or you can damage the threads on the bolt and then they will never tighten back down again. And those bolts are pretty much dealer only because it is a special style bolt that cannot be purchased at a store. It's for automotive use only, basically. So you see we're sliding the bolt through. Alright, so put the nut on now. We'll hold it with a wrench and lock her back down nice and tight. And taking the air gun, and we used a 1/2-inch air gun. You might be able to use a 3/8, but most of these sockets are pretty large, so they do work better with the 1/2-inch. That's a 21mm nut with an 18mm head on the bolt. And then the bottom nut on the other end is the 21mm socket, just so you know that. And as you can see, there's the other rod, our other joint. And then there's the one we just installed. We put some Loctite on it. You can see the red Loctite. That will help hold the threads so the nylock doesn't come loose down the road. And I said in the future, we definitely want to order these nuts with them from now on, because for some reason they don't supply them this time. So she's back together, installed. Now you'll put the push pins back in the inner fender well. Fill the tire on, and she's all set to go. Retest drive and check for noise again. So that'll be it for today.